There's probably nothing that has happened to you from a business standpoint that is going to take you out of the game as likely as your fear will take you out of the game.
You're listening to the Traffic and Funnels Show.
Crew. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to these Mindset Talks. Let's talk about pain for a minute. How many of you feel like you have experienced a fair share of pain in your life up to this point? How many of you feel like you have been through situations and circumstances that have tested you in your life? How many of you feel like you have gone through situations or circumstances in 2019 that have tested you and pushed you and prodded you and made you wonder if it's always going to be this way? You be honest about this. I think that one of the most misunderstood ingredients to a successful person's life is their pain. It's one of the most misunderstood ingredients in the recipe of success is a person's pain. More importantly, what is it that pain does to a person's ability to push through traumatic events or push through resistance or push through refunds? Hello. At this point, we're running Traffic and Funnels Sales Mentor, WealthCap, a new staffing company, a new events company. And then there's like 2 or 3 others. And we're managing teams of people. I was joking with a buddy today after grabbing some lunch. And he was asking me a question about something inside of one of our businesses. And I was like, I don't even know. Dude, to be honest, like, I don't really make decisions anymore. I kind of tend to stay in my lane. But it's awesome on one hand, it's terrifying on the other hand. And I think it should be a goal for you. And if you're here, to figure out how you can do the same thing. How do you get to a place where you're a leader and you're enabling other people to make decisions on your behalf? But I was talking to a partner of ours in the real estate game, and he made this statement. He said, man, it's crazy how young you are for the awareness you have in your life and your business. It's crazy how young you are for the awareness you have in the game. And I really thought about it because on one hand, I'm like, I don't necessarily feel that I'm young or old or anything in between. I just kind of am, and I just push, and I've got things I want to do. And I'm 30 years old. Just had my first baby 5 months ago. Game changer. And shout out to all you parent entrepreneurs out there, because you play the game at a different level. My honor and my respect goes out to you, because it's different building something when you got crazy kids running around. But I've thought about this, and there's all of these things that can mess with your ability to proceed and progress and think and win. You've got fear and emotion and ego, exhaustion. How many of you have just felt tired? You're like, man, what? I can only do this for so long. Sometimes it's just like, you feel like you got death by 1,000 cuts. Probably, if I'm not mistaken, there are some of you here today who are on this call today who had no idea we were doing this call today, because we keep changing things. But you are feeling like there's death by 1,000 cuts, and you've got to learn organic, and you've got to learn how to talk to people on the phone, and maybe you're tweaking your offer, and there's all of these things in your business. But at the end of the day, I think that there is probably 2 big things that can prevent a person from getting what they want in life. This is probably just me condensing everything down into 2 big roadblocks. But I think the first thing is probably just ignorance or lack of knowledge or lack of insight. There's some things that you just can't have because you don't even know it's possible. And remember, I'm going 30,000 foot. I'm looking at this, and I'm going to take it down into the studs here in a minute. I think the first thing is ignorance. This is probably why you're here, probably why you're in this program. It's like, if I don't know what to do, I'm going to invest into a mentor to teach me how to do it, right? That's just a basic tactical roadblock to getting what you want to get. I don't know how to be the parent I'm supposed to be. I don't know how to speak and communicate. I don't know how to run ads. I don't really know how to sell 10,000, 12,000, 20,000. I would do it if I knew, but I have a gap in my skill set or my information. I think the second thing that really gets people, and this is where my topic, where I'm going to kind of spend some time here today with you, is the second thing that really, really prevents people from achieving the destiny that they have in their heart to achieve is fear. Fear. You've probably been in both situations. Situation one, you're like, man, I would do it if I knew how. I just don't know how, and what I don't know is keeping me from getting what I don't have. But then you've also probably been in situations where I do know how to do this, but it is scary. I do know how to post organic on my wall, but what will my friends think about me? Again, I told you if I'm getting too close to home, just tell me to cool down a little bit. Maybe you've been in that position where I do know how to get what I want, or I do know a strategy that will work, or I do know at least directionally what I'm supposed to do. But what if it doesn't work? I may not know what to do, but I know what to do to learn how to do what I need to do. But what if it doesn't work out and I lose my money? Fear. That's the second thing. And I am thankful for my pain. I'm thankful for my experiences. And this man who has partnered with us in real estate, he's like, it's crazy that you're so young, that you have the awareness that you have. But I really thought about this, and I think that I am aware because of my pain. I have been through perhaps more trauma and more pain, more failure, more resistance training than I think 99% of my peers, than probably 90% of the people that are 20 years older than me. And at the end of the day, if you answered yes to the questions earlier, and I said, how many of you feel like you are tired? How many of you feel like you are going through difficult situations? How many of you feel like in this 2019, this year, you've been tested and pushed against? How many of you feel that way? And you said, yes, me. My news to you today is that you are in the absolute best possible posture to be able to achieve what is on your mind to achieve. I have never met more insecure, damaging, egotistical, incompetent individuals than when interacting with people who have never had pain. They've never been tested. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. You guys may know the story, you may not. I always wanted to be a pastor. I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and my mom has this recorded somewhere. She said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I wanted to be a cowboy preacher. No idea what that is, even to this day. It's a pretty good niche, though. You got to give it to me. At least I was niching down. Not just a preacher, not just a cowboy, but cowboy preacher. And I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was. My wife, before we were married, taught me that you could be in business for yourself. She was a hairstylist. She had her own business. She was rich. Come on, some people marry for love. Some people marry for money. Just kidding. I got both in one fell swoop. Anyways, I'm telling you this to say that, I had no plans to be here. I had no plans to be here always. But we go back further, what you really begin to notice when you look at my life is that I stumbled into a game I never wanted to play. But because of my pain, specifically the things that had happened to me when I was young, I discovered that, I was born for this game. I was born for solving problems. Growing up, I remember my dad forced me to go to all these John Maxwell simulcasts. A simulcast, for those of you who were not born in the 70s, a simulcast is when they had John Maxwell would present at an event in Boston or Florida or somewhere, and they would record it, and they would run the lines and the recordings to all of these churches across the United States. And so people would gather in these churches, and they would sit there and they would watch speakers on TV talk about the most boring stuff in the world, like leadership and operational management and capital allocation and things that I'm like, I'm 11 years old. I have no idea what any of this means. I hated it. And if you talk to my dad about it, he had to bribe me with Chick-fil-A to get me to go to these things. But I'm just trying to paint a picture for you guys about looking back in hindsight and seeing how everything is lined up perfectly. When I was 15, my family moved to Springfield, Missouri. They wanted to start a church. So we moved from Memphis to Springfield, Missouri. Sometimes I feel like people look at me and they think that I am somehow not human. And I'm just telling you the story about where this all came from so that you understand I'm just like you are. Literally just like you. 15 years old, my family moved me to Springfield, Missouri, started church, moved from Memphis, Tennessee. I started leading worship at this church. And all in all, my family grew up in this church in Springfield. Started dating this girl from the church in in Springfield. And the reason that I'm literally bringing all this up is because I was having some bourbon with a buddy, and I told him this story, and he couldn't believe it. And he was like, I had no idea that you went through this. And the reason that people don't know is because I don't sit on Facebook and complain all day long. There may be a lesson in there for somebody. I don't ask people for sympathy or tears, but I've allowed pain to do its work in me that has made me strong. And a lot of you are going through situations, and you need to understand that these situations, these circumstances are actually happening for you. They're designed to increase your requisite strength. Okay. They're not happening to you. So I started dating this girl, leading worship. I wanted to be a cowboy preacher, if you remember. I just wanted to work in church. I never thought that I would be in the business world. And a few weeks before I graduated from high school, you know how long ago this was? It was years and years ago. It came out that my girlfriend, who I had talked to my dad about getting a ring, was actually in an affair with the pastor of the church. Okay. How many of you think that felt? Very good. So I'm going through this, and I'm 17 years old. And it turned out that the pastor of the church was actually my uncle. Double ouch. So one day, everything's going good. The next day, you wake up, and the girl you think you're going to marry is actually cheating on you with a family member who's also the pastor of your church, 3 little boys who were the children of this guy. And that was when I was 17. Grow through that. We start a new life in Memphis with my now wife, Lindsay. And many of you know the beginning history, like the starter story of Traffic and Funnels. But if you go back before then, you know, I spent about 6 months figuring out how to do organic, figuring out how to get clients, figuring out how to put myself in a position to win. My wife was my first client. Worked out wonderfully. And I remember one time going into a Facebook group in 2000, this is early 2015. And I had posted basically saying that I would help people with their businesses, to grow their businesses. And I had left it for 2 hours. I went back, and there were hundreds of comments on this post. Every single one of them without fail is basically saying, you're an idiot. How could you help me with my copywriting when your copywriting is this bad? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. I get home that night, and Lindsay can obviously tell that I'm not happy. We lived in a 800 square foot apartment in Memphis, Tennessee. My rent was $700 a month. I had brought home a salary of about $1,600 to $1,800 a month, depending on how many hours I worked. We had nothing. I'm trying to build something because I have seen how marketing could work. I've done it with my wife's business, and now I'm trying to get out there as a freelancer, and I'm getting like shamed publicly. How many of you have had situations like this? These are the things that you're afraid of. And part of my role today is to have you go ahead and meet your fears. Go ahead and court them and greet them and look at the worst case scenario, and you're going to be okay. That's the moral of the story, is you're going to be okay. Because this happened to me. We got into Traffic and Funnels. Obviously, I kept going. I had a lot of opportunities to quit. We kept going. We got into TF. We started growing, me and Chris together. We had employees leave at the beginning and start competing companies. We got sued beginning of 2016. There's probably nothing that has happened to you from a business standpoint that is going to take you out of the game as likely as your fear will take you out of the game. People do things in an effort to avoid what they're afraid of, when what they're afraid of is not as dangerous as the evasion tactics themselves. 3 things that pain does for you. Number 1, when you go through pain, it reduces fear. It reduces fear. Fear is all about perspective, my friends. Fear is all about perspective. When you go through something difficult, it sets your grid for similar situations in the future. Think about some of this. I was talking with a team member the other day, and she's overwhelmed with some things, and she's like kind of panicky about some things and just being crazy about some things. And it's like, well, the craziest thing you have to do right now is like organize a system for onboarding clients. And it's just like, your grid is messed up. You haven't had enough pain in your life to actually tailor the grid to what is real. You think about, I'm just going to go off the top of my head right now and think of all the problems that I have in my business. I'm going to think about all the problems I have in my life. And then I think about the parent who is raising a child with special needs, or to the person overseas whose biggest concern, they're in a third world country, is making sure their children have water that's not going to kill them. Pain puts you into a position where your fears should be reduced. If the hardest thing you have to figure out, ladies and gentlemen, is how to go get a $5,000 client, you are fine. Welcome to first world problems. If the hardest thing in your life right now is you had a client refund, you are fine. Some of you need to get a grip on your perspective. Your perspective is so low and so juvenile and so silly and so dumb that you are freaking out because you have to get an ROI on this thing in 2.5 hours. And it's like, grow up. You either have a vision that's worth it or you don't. Be honest with yourself. Admit to yourself where you're at. Ask the team for help. Participate in trainings like these. When you get an opportunity, get on to talk to somebody. Here's the problem with people who have not experienced pain and failure and resistance is they do not understand how much opportunity they have. They overinflate the negatives and they ignore the positive. You want to increase your tolerance level. You want to increase your wisdom. You want to increase your awareness. You want to increase your influence. You want to increase your reach. You want to increase your ability to stay calm under pressure. Go through something difficult. Back yourself into a corner. And then don't complain and moan and whine the whole time. Maybe you'll learn something. It'll reduce the fear that you have in your life. That's number one. Number two, pain teaches us patience. Pain teaches us patience. I learned a while ago that it's not how much we have that makes us happy. It's the enjoyment of the process. It's the enjoyment of the movement from point A to point B. In fact, one thing I've learned about human psychology that's difficult to talk about, and it's difficult to teach because if you've never experienced it, it's almost impossible for you to understand it. But some of you will understand that going from point A to point B to point C to point D to point E, when you get to the new points, it's not as fun as being in the middle. Like, really think about everything in your life. Like, we enjoy more than anything else. This is human psychology. There's science to back it up. Argue with me and you're like, I'm right. We enjoy as humans. We enjoy pushing towards something more than we enjoy actually getting it. It's why the journey to vacation oftentimes stays with us longer than the vacation itself. Pain teaches us patience. Number three, pain creates drive. Pain creates drive. I know that I'll always have 2013 and 2014 as painful seasons for me that I can look back on to be grateful for where I am today. And I'll always have the most difficult times in my life and my career available to me as fuel and energy to push forward. Pain reduces fear. Pain teaches patience. Pain creates drive. See you guys.
Thanks for listening. For more from Chris and Taylor, visit trafficandfunnels.com and get a free gift just for being a subscriber. That's trafficandfunnels.com.
Hey, what if you could be in the boardroom where we sit down and we plan out how we're going to grow our 8-figure company month in and month out? If you've ever wondered how Traffic and Funnels grew so quickly, there are strategies, there are formulas that you can model in your business that our clients are modeling to scale to the moon and back. This is an amazing program. It's called Insiders Access Monthly, and we've put together a couple words on a page that you can actually go and check out this offer, trafficandfunnels.com/IAM. You will not be sorry, I promise you. Let me know what you think.